Welcome to the 210 Podcast, Catalytic Conversations with your host, Nathan Buck. How do faith, trust, and reason position us for God's purposes? The conversation starts now.
Could you imagine that 3-day march there? He gets to the spot, and to the servants, he says, "Hey, me and the boy will be back later." It reminds me of Gideon, how Gideon was actually the least of these, and he was afraid, and he was out, and he was hiding, and he was trying to get some food because the Midianites had come taken over. And this angel appears. "Hey, you mighty man of valor." It's almost like,
hey, you what? Like, who you? The crap behind you.
And the process after that too is somewhat funny because Gideon's fear keeps bubbling up.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the whole thing with that fleece, well, if it's wet, make it dry. If it's dry, make it wet. It's the ground wet. And then Gideon feels good. Hey, army. Hey, look now. Yeah, now I can do it. And God goes, yeah, but wait, about that army. Let me just whittle this down some. And man, it just takes that ordinary guy who will be obedient. And sometimes the power to fulfill the call doesn't come until you at first agree, if you will, to the call. Exodus 3, Moses. Moses is 80, 40 years in the backside of nowhere, shepherding, sees this bush on fire, and it is not burned. And Moses, love this. He says, "I will step aside to see the sight why this bush burns and is not consumed." And then it says next, when God saw that Moses had turned aside, God called to him. That's such a hinge, right? Such a hinge thing.
Like when Abraham is with Isaac, there's an element to that. Like people wrestle with this because of, why would God call him to give his son? And I think people miss something very obvious. If God is God and he knew the plan from the beginning, right? Is there a human who has the faith to believe that God is God so much that they would do what God already intended to do? Right? You think about that for a second, you go, oh my goodness. Like, why was Abraham so faithful? And Paul later tells us it's because he reasoned. His assumption was like that God could raise him from the dead, right? Previous example. It was like Jesus hadn't been raised. Nobody had ever been raised. And yet Abraham believed God so much that he reasoned that God could raise his son from the dead. And we focus on the fact that he has a knife over his son, right? We focus on, and the culture wants to be like, oh, well, parental brutality, and this culture is awful, and the patriarchy kills, like all of this insanity. When the reality is the true picture is here's a guy who hears from God and knows it's God. And God asks him to do the impossible for a parent.
Absolutely true.
And rather than balk at it, I'm sure in holy fear, right? In holy terror, but yet reasoned, says, okay, if God wants to do this, he must be able to raise him from the dead. Because he believed the promise of God about Isaac as much as he believed the power of God, right? And the presence of God and the reality of God. And so whatever happened in that moment, he was willing to do what God asked him to do for whatever God was going to do. But that's massive.
Could you imagine that 3-day march there? Because they were on, I think, for three days, and he gets to the spot, and to the servants, he says, "Hey, me and the boy will be back later."
Yeah.
But the whole time he knew why he was going there. Abraham also being a
Well, and
man.
Isaac asking, "Where's the ram?" Right? I see the knife. I see the wood.
Oh,
Where's the
right,
sacrifice?
right. God will provide, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Abraham, I think it was actually in Romans 4, where actually Paul unpacks this. He says that Abraham considered not the deadness of Sarah's womb.
Yeah.
So again, the consideration.
Right. Yeah.
Where you can actually see him not being afraid to engage his mind,
Right.
stare his doubts in the face,
Yeah.
and put that up against what God had said.
Yeah. That's huge.